Today we will be showing collaboration in action using Sage 300. But first of all, why collaborate? On our website www.orchid.systems we have a great blog entry which runs through the essence of why companies should be collaborating, both internally and externally. Without collaboration, we end up with siloed information, low productivity, frustrated staff, unhappy customers. But on the flip side, with effective collaboration, those silos get broken down, we get enhanced efficiency, improved staff morale, customer satisfaction. We'll be showing with the use of Sage 300, Orchid modules, and third-party cloud platforms how we can support collaboration, create better outcomes for customers and employees, and most importantly, boost the bottom line. The scenario we're going to work with is our customer, Mr. Ronald Black, sends a large order through to Natalie, who is on the sales team, who receives that order, and then collaborates with Steve on the purchasing team to get that order fulfilled. Steve then collaborates with the vendor, one of the two vendors, to get that order fulfilled, and passes the rest on to Anne, who is going to deal with the second vendor. After this is all complete, the sales team is communicated with, and the customer is then updated with this information. As a part of all of this, we'll be having a look at the email smart link, shared notes and shared documents, different messaging platforms, and automated tasks and alerts. So in more detail, Natalie enters the sales order, reviews notes relating to the customer, files the customer purchase order, emails and files the customer confirmation, and organize to have a message automatically sent through to the sales team. The system then automatically creates purchase orders. Steve, one of the purchasing officers, is SMS'd and is sent an email with smart links through to the areas that he needs to attend. So purchase orders going through to suppliers that he needs to approve and ensure meets the customer's requirements in terms of delivery dates. Steve then approves the PO, reviews the customer purchase order and order confirmation, emails the vendor the purchase order, and emails a smart link to Anne asking her to deal with the second half of the original sales order as it's now dealing with a different vendor.
I've just received the large order from Ronald Black that we'd all been expecting for the last few weeks. I notice he needs it in the next 2 weeks, so I know I'm going to have to collaborate with the purchasing team to make sure that I have the exact delivery date and can get back to Ronald on time. So I log into Sage 300 to enter the order, and as I'm selecting customer Ronald Black, I see some relevant information appearing on the right hand side in the tray. I can open the LinkedIn link for Mr. Ronald Black so that I have the relevant information to chat to him about when I call him to thank him for the order. I can also see year-to-date sales, and I can confirm that this is a particularly large order for Mr. Ronald Black, which I may need to chat to the credit department team about as well. And finally, I have access to the relevant documents where I'm going to file the purchase order and the order confirmation for that particular order later on. So this order needs to be delivered in the next 2 weeks, and I want everyone in the team to have access to that information. So I'm entering that in the comment so that I can share that information with Mr. Ronald Black. As I'm entering the lines for the lamps and fluorescent desk lamps and the bulbs that he's ordering, I'm seeing that the prior sales and the prior average price for this item for this customer is showing on the right-hand side. And for the bulbs, we can see that he's never purchased that item before. So he's ordering a large quantity of 400, which is more than what we have on hand in the appropriate location at the moment. But I know that our automated processes will ensure that the PO is created and the purchasing team is notified of the need to attend to this PO fairly quickly. So here I'm seeing that an email is sent to Steve, the purchasing manager, as well as an SMS because we know he's not often at his desk. These notifications that these automated actions have taken place can be hidden if required. So to facilitate the information sharing and the collaboration, I'm not going to print the default order confirmation, but rather I will file the email that's been received from Mr. Ronald Black by dragging and dropping from Outlook into the document management tray. And this is a new feature as of August 2018. And I'm also going to use the custom print email button, which will create a PDF of the order confirmation, file it away in the appropriate document management link folder, and email it with Mr. Ronald Black, including the comment on the order, which lets us send an automatic email with a slightly tailored email body. So we can see that the PDF confirmation has been filed away, and I can double click on it to open and view the PDF. And this is also going to be available for the purchasing team if they need to review the order that matches the PO that's been created. So now, because this was a particularly large order, I can call Mr. Ronald Black, confirm that he's received the email, and confirm to him that we will confirm the exact delivery date as soon as we have finalized, confirmed with the vendor when they're going to deliver to us. So when I look at Mr. Ronald Black's email, I can see that he's actually received the email with the order confirmation attached, and the comment that we've entered on the order is in the body of the email that he's received. And at that point, I can also refer to all the LinkedIn information that I've read about him before calling him. Finally, we've just started using Microsoft Teams, which is part of Office 365, to collaborate within the team. And I can see that Anne has been chasing me about this order, and now she can automatically know that that order has now been created. Order number 87 has been created and it's been notified in Microsoft Teams, so that everyone who's a member of that team can view the information.
I'm Steve, the purchasing manager, and I'm out at lunch having a good time when I receive an SMS telling me about a large order which has just been received. And it's telling me we've now just received this order number 87 from Mr. Ronald Black, and 2 purchase orders have been created from that, number 51 and number 52, which I now need to authorize and act on. Rushing back from lunch, I have a look at my emails and I see I have received an email saying that these 2 purchase orders, numbers 51 and 52, have been created. And I'll now go off and drill into the first of these purchase orders, number 51. And looking at it, I see that it's in relation to a vendor and an item that I haven't had much experience with, so I'm going to pass this one on to my colleague Anne. And I'm doing this via the email smart link, which I've clicked on, and now I'm typing up the email to Anne asking her to attend to this purchase order to ensure that our customer, Mr. Ronald Black, receives his goods in time, with an email smart link so that Anne can drill straight through to the screen that she needs to be in with the relevant data. I'm now moving on to the second purchase order to see if I can attend to that. And this second purchase order now relates to desk lamps, which I am quite comfortable with handling. I know the vendor well here. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and have a more detailed look at it, initially having a look at the purchase order received from Mr. Ronald Black, and secondly the order that had been created, the order confirmation sent back to Mr. Ronald Black. I'm quite comfortable with this, so I'm taking it off hold. I can now print PDF and can also print and email. So print a PDF and email the PDF. And I've decided now to do that so that our vendor receives the relevant document so they can get going with fulfilling this order for us. So here I've had the email sent to Carl Jenner, and looking at Carl Jenner's emails, here he is having received the purchase order confirmation for number 52, which had been created automatically. Anne now reviews the overall demand, reviews the purchase order and the customer purchase order, analyzes the underlying stock position with an analysis cube, updates the purchase order, files the purchase order, and sends a tailored email to the vendor. Anne now receives the vendor reply, updates the receipt date, files the email, and emails a smart link to Natalie so that Natalie can get back to the customer with delivery dates, etc. Natalie then receives the email, checks the purchase order and the vendor's response, and notifies the customer accordingly.
I've just received this purchase order from Steve to ask me to look into the purchase order created for Coastal. And I can open up the hyperlink to open the PO screen straight away. And I see the quantity is for 330 and the purchase order is on hold. But linked to the purchase order, I can see Ronald Black's original purchase order. And I can see that he's requesting delivery in the next 2 weeks. And I can also see the OE confirmation that was sent to Ronald Black. And the purchase order has not yet been created for purchase order 51. Opening up Info Explorer, I can open up my PO analysis cube, which shows me all my open POs, and my IC stock quantity analysis cube. And looking first at my IC stock quantity analysis, I can see that for our lamps, we've got minus 15 available, which is our on-hand plus PO less on sales order. And it's quite a small number, and I think some of those sales orders won't go through. But with the bulbs, it's a different story. 70 on hand, 1,182 on PO, and 1,657 on sales order with minus 405. So I think based on the purchase order that I've just seen for 330, I should up that by quite a sum because I think most of those sales orders will go through. This has been out of stock for a long time. And looking at the PO analysis, I can see the POs for chloride, and it's currently being grouped by expected ship date. But I could group those POs by vendor to see how many POs are being grouped for our vendor for coastal heating. And we see quite a few large POs sitting here. So this is the one that we should up to 500. And we can right-hand mouse button and drill through to the purchase order from here too. The first time you drill down from within a cube, you need to say which company you want to drill down into. Based on my feeling of the sales orders, I'm going to increase the quantity to 500 and go ahead and post this purchase order. And after phoning Coastal and confirming with them that they are able to deliver 500 in less than 10 days, I could go back to that purchase order, take it off hold, and if I print to PDF, it will just save the document away for me in this folder. If I print to PDF, it will save the document away for me in this folder, but it will also email it to the vendor with a standard message. But I want to have my own custom message to make sure that they remember their promises to deliver in 10 days' time. Notification that the document has been created. And if I refresh my tray, I see the PO sitting there that's been PDF'd for me. So I can right-hand mouse button and email this PO and do my own custom message through to the vendor. The right-hand mouse button on a document in Document Management link in a network folder to attach it to an email is new functionality to be released in August 2018. So I can email John Smith and say, as per our discussion, and send off that email. And it's attached the PDF for me, the PDF PO for me. John Smith receives this email, opens the PO, checks the quantity of 500, is happy to commit to sending it within 10 days, and replies back to me saying, yep, all is good for the 7th of February. And back in my email, I see the reply from John Smith, yes, all is good for the 7th of February, so I can go back to my POs and update the delivery date, the expected delivery date to the 7th of February, and then let Natalie know. So I'm going to email Hotlink through to Natalie. And I'll take the PO off hold and post. And I should file away John's response for others to see. So from my emails, from my Outlook, I can drag and drop into my vendor response DML box. And I also want to make a note against my items, post on our internal Twitter feed group regarding our items that this item will be arriving by the 7th of February. So this note has been configured to go to our Twitter account and show us any messages for the currently shown item, the A11050, and I can post in here by saying the expected arrival for this item is now the 7th February 2019. And for anyone who's following this hashtag, they will see the expected arrival date. And the expected arrival for this item is now the 7th of February.
Collaboration with the purchasing team is working well. I've just received an email with the latest update on the PO about the bulbs from Chloride with an expected delivery date on the 7th of February. I can open the PO from that email to confirm on the details and view all the relevant information before I go and update Ronald's Black order. So the arrival date is the 7th of February, so I know that we can deliver to Ronald Black on the 8th of February. I'll be able to go to order 87, update the comments with the date we're going to receive the goods, and update the expected shipment date to the 8th of February, the day after. From there, I can now email an updated order confirmation with the latest date and the latest comment to Mr. Ronald Black, but because the urgency of his request, I can also pick up the phone and talk to him personally about the delivery date schedule for the 8th of February.
In summary then, what we've seen is a large order being placed by Mr. Ronald Black, being received by Natalie, the large order being split into two in terms of purchasing, one being dealt with by Steve from the purchases department and the other being dealt with by Anne, with collaboration happening within the company, and ultimately all that information being fed back through to Natalie, who has then passed it on back to Mr. Ronald Black. As a part of this, what we've seen is the email smart link being used, notes, shared notes being used, shared documents, different messaging platforms, and automated tasks and alerts. And what we've seen is the use of Twilio for SMSing, Microsoft Teams for communicating with the sales team, LinkedIn, SharePoint, Office 365, and Twitter. And on the Orchid front, we've seen the following Orchid modules in action: Extender, Document Management Link, Notes, Email Smart Link, Process Scheduler, and Info Explorer. Now, Extender was used to deal with conditional and calculated notes, automating transactions, amending screens, sending SMSs, and sending emails. Document Management Link was used to link to files, rename files, and dragging and dropping emails which need to be stored centrally so that everybody can see them. Notes was used to display notes, display hyperlinks, and display conditional and calculated notes. Email Smart Link was used to provide email functionality with a smart link whereby the recipient could be taken through to a point within Sage 300 that they need to be with. No need to navigate menu systems looking for specific data. You're taken straight through there. Process Scheduler to refresh and email cubes, Info Explorer cubes, which were used to analyze the inventory situation. And lastly, Info Explorer to analyze the inventory.
I'm just going to spend a couple of minutes talking about the scripts that are running in this database. The first one, IC item notify by Twitter, is the script that posts to Twitter and displays back the results from Twitter, filtering by item number. The second one, display customer sales, is the script that shows the total year-to-date sales for the customer in the green box beside the order entry screen. The third one displays the customer item sales for the currently selected customer and item. The fourth one, OE order header, is the script that, when the sales order is posted, creates purchase orders for any items where the quantity is greater than the quantity on hand, sends an SMS of the list of POs created to a nominated number, and emails the list of POs created to a nominated email address with the email smart link to hyperlink back to the purchase orders, and posts the sales notification to Microsoft Teams. The fifth script is the one that adds the Add Freight button and the Print/Email button on the OE order entry screen. We demonstrated creating the OE confirmation PDF, saving it in the document management link folder, and emailing to the customer. The PO 1210 print and email script adds two buttons to the PO screen, one to create the PDF and save the PDF of the purchase order in the DML folder, and the second to then email that created file to the vendor. The Orchid Team Add card is the script that creates a connection to Microsoft Teams, and the OE Teams OE Ord H script is the one that fills in the details, the specific details about the order created, and then uses the Teams Add card to post through to Microsoft Teams. And finally, the send SMS message is the script that uses Twilio and sends the SMS to a nominated number. I'm now going to edit a few of these scripts to show you how we can easily connect to cloud services. For connecting to Twitter, we first import the Twitter library. Then we define our connection details to connect through to Twitter. These functions format dates and text. This is the function that reads the feeds on Twitter, filters by the item number, and displays it in our note. First, we create the text box where we can type in the Twitter feed, and then we connect through to Twitter. We read all the feeds and filter by our current item number and display it in our note. But to connect to Twitter, this is all we needed to do. And to post to Twitter, when the text in our note box changes, we connect to Twitter and post the new tweet. And for posting to Microsoft Teams, we have two scripts. The first one, which is attached to the order header, allows us to build up the details of what the posting is going to say. And in the Orchid Teams Add card Python file, we import requests, which allows us to do HTTP requests. We get the URL details and then post the payload where the payload is set to the text built up in the Orchid Teams Ord HPY. For sending the SMS, we're using Twilio. So we first imported the Twilio REST Python library, and then filling in our account SID and our authority token, we send a message using the client.message.create from the Twilio REST library to our required telephone number and from our required telephone number. And the body was built up by the OE order header script, and the list of POs that were created was filled in the body. And finally, I'm going to show you the setup required to connect to SharePoint when it is hosted by Office 365. So in this scenario, these customer documents are being stored in SharePoint. And when I drag and drop, they are uploaded to SharePoint. And when I double click, they are opened from SharePoint. In Information Manager options on the SharePoint tab, you fill in the SharePoint server, the SharePoint site, and the version of SharePoint that you're using. SharePoint.com is for Office 365. In the Information Manager tray icon options, you fill in the user and password for this particular Sage 300 user to connect to the SharePoint.com site. And finally, in the document management link configuration options for the customer number field for the customer screen, you specify the folder for which the contents will be displayed, and the filter if you do want to filter the documents in that folder.
So what we've seen today is a subset of Orchid modules, primarily focusing on the collaboration and intelligence side, which includes Info Explorer, Notes, and Document Management Link. But extending beyond that, we've seen some of Process Schedulers functionality and Extender as well. Orchid does have a number of other modules which fall into the following 5 categories: collaboration and intelligence, automation and productivity, tailoring your system and integration, streamlining financial processes, and operations management. And finally, just a bit about Orchid. Orchid now has over 5,000 Sage 300 sites in over 60 countries, with an average of 2 Orchid modules per site, being supported and deployed by over 400 Sage business partners around the world. Orchid is all about improving the efficiency and productivity of Sage 300 users and is based in Sydney, Australia. Orchid has been awarded over 10 industry awards for the development work that has been done and has culminated in 13 integrated modules which work with the same look and feel as the rest of Sage 300 and has now been in business for over 25 years. If you do have any questions or need to know a bit more about Orchid, please visit www.orchid.systems. Thank you.